Sí, vamos a lo que estábamos varios de ustedes esperando, ¿no? Lo que les quería comentar ahora, muchachos, es que vamos a tener una conversación interesante con dos personas muy importantes que existen, bueno, que son también amigos de la comunidad y que han querido participar y colaborar con nosotros para amenizar, para discutir, para conversar de cosas interesantes, ¿sí? Una de ellas es Alejandra Quetzalí, que trabaja en Expedia Group, antes ha sido developer advocate de AWS también, y pues tiene mucho conocimiento de robótica, de cosas de machine learning, de diferentes aspectos. Ahora nos va a contar más también. Y venimos a discutir sobre cosas interesantes. ¿Con quién? Con Corey Quinn. Corey Quinn, para quienes no lo conocen, pues es esta persona. Alejandra Quetzalí, ahí está Alejandra Quetzalí, que está con nosotros, ¿no? Y Corey Quinn. Corey Quinn, que está también con nosotros acompañándonos, y algunos de ustedes lo conocerán o lo habrán visto en algún podcast que es Last Week on AWS. Es un podcast muy interesante, muy bueno. Tiene un poco de humor por ahí, un poquito, cosas interesantes, discusiones muy importantes, y va a ser divertido escucharlos. Así que los voy a invitar al escenario y vamos a hablar sobre... Ahora vamos a ver de qué vamos a hablar, ¿sí? Ahora voy a mencionarles cuál va a ser el tema de conversar, y pues vamos a divertirnos un momento hablando con ellos. Así que quiero invitar al escenario primero a Corey Quinn. I think he's ready to add to the stream. Corey?
Howdy. Yeah, I don't speak Spanish for crap, so I just assume that most of which is what happened was you were calling me a jerk in the language I don't speak, which is pretty accurate. It's usually I get called in languages I call that in languages I do speak. So this is just basically everything's coming up. Everything's coming up roses today.
Yeah, I understand. Yes. Well, I'm trying to introduce and trying to challenge everyone. Who are you actually?
If you figure it out, please let me know, because honestly, at this point, I am sort of grasping at straws.
Yeah, I really make a mistake, maybe presenting you or saying something that you are actually not. You are not, but you have to understand me. I have like 7 hours straight here, just sitting here in front of the computer, making something like this called AWS User Conference. I think it's great until now, until we have you here, Corey, and it's awesome to have you, Corey.
No, it's great to have me. Oh my God, it's anytime you get to indulge my ongoing love affair with the sound of my own voice, I'm thrilled and always willing to participate in that. Thank you for inviting me. It's appreciated.
Yeah, of course. Can you tell a little bit about you? And not being sarcastic at all, of course.
Well, I don't know. That's my first language, of course, sarcasm. But yeah, at a high level, I'm a consultant. I go into companies and I fix the horrifying AWS bill, which is always a pleasure. If you don't have a problem now, you will eventually. The bill never seems to get smaller. And I started doing this about 4 years ago and change. And from there, it was, okay, I don't really have what you would consider a marketing budget or a sense of propriety. So it was, all right, how do I get attention? How do I start figuring out what's going on in the world? Simultaneously, AWS releases stuff constantly. Keeping up with it is a full-time job, and I kept looking for the place I could gather all of the releases for the past week. And I started gathering them myself, which took a fair bit of work. And I realized I was about 80% of the way to having a newsletter that would go out and explain this to people. And that's what Last Week in AWS started as. I was hoping that I would launch it and everyone would yell at me, why don't you just sign up for this other thing that Jeff Barr runs or similar? And great, then I can turn this off and go to the official place I can look at this. No, it doesn't exist. And people started signing up for that. I added podcasting a bit later, started giving conference talks. And now basically I'm an expert in AWS billing because I said I was and people believed me. And that's really all it took. It's sort of a weird evolution here.
I don't know if everyone believes in you. I know a person that actually maybe you want to talk about, and actually I didn't tell you about anything about that until I think the last time. So I want to introduce here, and I'm saying in Spanish, Alejandra Quetzalí is here with us. I'm talking. When I'm mentioning her that I'm talking about you, I don't know what to say. Maybe let's invite her and figure it out what's happening. It's weird. Let's go with her. Yeah. Alejandra?
Hola, Carlos.
Hola Alejandra, ¿cómo estás? Es un gusto tenerte aquí.
¿Quieres que ponga la cámara? Me veo súper mal.
¿Cómo es eso?
The last time we got to speak to each other, you worked at AWS, and I think you were required to be nice to me. That's not a thing anymore. So, yay, you don't work there anymore. The last time I checked, I've never worked there because they have hiring standards. And yeah, so at this point, we can actually be honest. What a wonderful surprise.
Carlos, dile que ojalá pudiera decir lo mismo.
She said, actually, if you can say it, actually, this,
¿En inglés? ¿Lo digo?
he can say it actually the same about you.
Good.
I
I'm going to be the translator here, you know. Alejandra, I'm going to be the translator between Corey and you. Because I don't know if it's going to be in Spanish or it's going to be English. I don't know what's happening here.
No, whatever you want. But I do think we should make Corey suffer at least a lot during this time.
Well, why not? There's basically a line of people who want to beat up on me. So please cut to the front of it. Go ahead.
Oh, poor Corey. What a
If I
hard
can
life
dish it
he
out,
has.
I can't take it. That makes me just a jerk. So please.
Okay. Let's calm down a little bit and let's talk about why we were here. I have a very interesting topic. I don't know what you think about it. Maybe we can relate it that if we talk about bills and I don't know. Let me think about it. But it's about being an agnostic. Agnostic what? You know, actually, when people think about adopting to the cloud and getting into the cloud all into AWS, they think about being agnostic or not being agnostic. And I say, for example, that's something that I say every time. I want to marry AWS all the time. I don't give any reason to be agnostic or not. What do you think about that, Corey? It matters to be agnostic 2021 or not, or what AWS wants us to use every AWS service that actually we can find that in open source projects. Why we have to move to AWS just because AWS makes services scalable and things like that.
From where I sit, I don't really care what provider a company picks, but I think going all in on whatever provider that is the right move. AWS obviously would prefer that provider would be AWS. Folks at other companies would prefer it very much not be AWS. And to some extent, I think they're right. That said, I like having the idea, at least maintain the idea of being able to one day go beyond one provider, whatever that provider is. Let's call it AWS since this is an AWS community day. Making sure you're not, I guess, painting yourself into a corner where you have no choice but to go with AWS regardless for all of your workloads. That might not be as palatable to a number of companies. But it's also not something that I realistically view as a place that companies are going to get to where, we want to be able to deploy our workload on any cloud provider at any time, which makes them feel really good when they do that and put in all the extra work and then not do that because it never quite works out that way. It's, we think it could work somewhere else, but we haven't actually tested it. It's like a DR plan. It only is as valid as the last time you tested it. Every time you make a change afterwards, you have to go back and revalidate that. So unless you're running this workload in both places simultaneously, it's not really multi-cloud. You're just slowing yourself down for an uncertain benefit.
So what do you think, Ale?
Well, don't hate me, Corey. I'm going to say something in Spanish.
Go for it, by all means. I'll just assume you're agreeing with me. It's fine.
Sí pienso que ninguna compañía quiere realmente el lío de tener que tener más de un proveedor de nube. La realidad es que las compañías muy grandes tienen equipos tan separados que cada quien está haciendo lo que quiere. Y I've had jobs before where one team was using Oracle, my team was using AWS. You can't really avoid that, the bigger the company sometimes. Pero diría yo que es como que una buena experiencia que para otros no necesariamente, aunque sí diría que es muy importante aprender sobre diferentes nubes. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I don't know that as a business you want to have multiple cloud providers, but you, the individual, should still strive to learn about multiple cloud providers. That's one point that I wanted to make.
I I think first we're talking about two different levels here. As a company, if I'm a big conglomerate and one team is building something on GCP and one is building something on AWS, that's fine. What I get angry about is the idea of I'm going to build this one application, this one workload, and have it be able to run seamlessly everywhere. That's what people seem to think is the right path, and that's what drives me nuts. As far as the individual goes, learning about multiple clouds, I'm of a slightly different mind on that. From my position, I like to, first, regardless of what cloud you pick as an individual, Azure, GCP, and AWS are all safe options. IBM and Oracle, as I said, GCP, Azure, and AWS are all safe options. And becoming
what do you mean? What do you mean by safe options? I
exactly.
What do you mean by safe
sure.
options?
With Oracle, you got to be really good at cutting very large checks. I mean, that's what we learned the last time Oracle got big in a certain space. But the painful part from what I saw was now, so I'm all in on AWS, let's say, and I want to expand out and I want to get to effectively improve my skill set, wind up making more money, becoming more employable. It's likelier that I will be better served by getting better at the thing I'm already good at than by going back to being a beginner on a completely separate cloud provider.
Oh, I will say, I guess the reason why I disagree with that point is I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I don't think it makes sense to try to be, a genius at Python and AWS and Azure, and that's not going to happen. You have to specialize and focus so that you can, career progress. But what I'm referring to is, for example, like right now, this is for Peru, right? Latin America. And for example, back in Mexico, like Mexico City is a lot more people are using Azure than AWS. Microsoft has a much bigger presence there. So if I'm the individual and I'm trying to break into tech and get a job as an individual, so like right now I'm not speaking from a corporation standpoint, but from the individual standpoint, I'm sorry, but I'm from Latin America. I might have to learn Azure and AWS as I figure out my tech career, because not all cloud providers are predominant in the same areas in the world.
Very much so. I have remarkably few customers that I can talk about in Latin America and South America, for example. Mercado Libre is one of the exceptions. But it's great to be able to talk. But what's fantastic about talking to these different companies? Oh, yeah, true story. But what's a blast is when I wind up talking to these different companies and people who are getting into the space, I think that what technology am I going to learn next comes down to, well, what is your next job? I would encourage you to have a job that is in the cloud space if that's an area that you're looking to the future with. The cloud is not getting smaller and it's not going away. But if I wind up working in a role that has me focusing on pure Azure, well, yeah, it's time to learn Azure. AWS, okay, great, all well and good. Most of the concepts generally tend to translate between different environments. And I want to get very good at the environment that I'm in rather than trying to strive to work on something that I don't get to touch. Because having real production experience in a particular provider is way more valuable than a side project you do at night on a different provider. Being able to point at something on a resume and say, yeah, I worked on this in production counts for an awful lot. On some level, the technologies you get good at are less things that people consciously plan and more what happens to them through the course of their career. The reason that I got into cloud was because it was inflicted upon me. I was very anti-cloud back in 2012, but I was forced into having to use it or basically go work somewhere else. And honestly, my convictions aren't that strong. So I'm going to pick up the thing that they're paying me to work on. And here we are. Blame them.
Actually, I got into cloud by accident. I remember I had a front-end UI role, and I was walking around to the kitchen in my job at the time. And I ran to this engineer guy. We start talking, and I asked him, which team are you on? And he goes, I'm the one that handles AWS. And I said, what's that? And he goes, cloud computing stuff. And one day you'll have to worry about it too. It looks like he was right.
Yeah, over on the Twitch chat, David was saying this is normalizing a lack of control and strategy, which happens a lot. Oh, absolutely, it is. It completely is. Any company that starts experimenting with cloud finds themselves in a really weird position where in many cases the cloud salesperson shows up one day and, well, why should we build things on your cloud? And the answer is, oh, I'm sorry. There are 87 different groups within your company that are already using this on their corporate credit cards. I'm just offering you a way to round them all up and get a bit of increased governance and maybe some discounting tied to it. It's already there. It's already happening. So there are very few companies, most of them regulated, that start into cloud with a very fleshed out strategy around management and governance. For the rest of us, we're not that lucky. And this is what happens to us. I wish I could say otherwise, but the honest truth is people turn around one day and, oh, that weird experiment Skunkworks project on AWS is now generating $20 million a year in revenue. Huh. I guess we're not turning it off anytime soon.
¿Qué dices, Carlos?
Wow. Yeah. Maybe you have different experience between you and Corey. So, for example, here in Latin America, we didn't have any options. When I started cloud computing here I didn't have a few options to choose. For example, just as you said, Microsoft and Azure as cloud computing company have big space here in Latin America, and well, but I started in AWS just by I don't know if by mistake, if because I wasn't like a sysadmin and I go to a big company right back and at 2014 and everyone was using AWS by default, so I didn't have any option to choose. I just start working with that, and and as you say, Corey, that's something that makes me earn money as I says. And I don't want to leave it. It's like a very toxic relation with AWS that I have right now. That actually I'm figuring out right now that it's toxic relation. I don't know if it's toxic relation, but I just said if I can get good amount of money about that, how can we keep doing that? I don't know. I'm thinking with my devil side, you know. What do you say, Ale?
Oh, can you repeat? Sorry, ¿lo puedes repetir?
No, pues, no, I was thinking about that when I started working in cloud computing, I didn't have any options to choose. Yeah, I just used AWS. I didn't have the opportunity to choose nothing. When I work in commercial here in Peru, everyone was using AWS. So then I figured out that AWS was the most common used here in Peru, and the biggest companies here use AWS, and no one else. Yeah, no other cloud providers. AWS has a very good amount of companies that were using that in big workloads. And I think if, as being a little bit sarcastic, and if we find something that we can earn money about that, and being something, I'm trying to be a little bit thinking in not too good. If I find something that makes me earn money in a good way, why can't we keep doing that? That's what Corey said right now. He specialized in AWS building because people they didn't have the culture to use AWS. They just use it because they want to use it. They want to spend money, and then they don't figure it out that it's actually they are wasting their money, and you are taking that opportunity to earn money from their mistakes. That's creepy, but it works.
I don't know as I would describe it that way. When I was trying to figure out what company do I focus on, I started talking to the people I knew in my network. When you start out as a consultant, your first customers are always going to be the people you know. You're not going to take out Google ads and suddenly have people show up and, hey, can you fix my bill? You have to go through your friend network. And I was talking to people about this, and I asked, how's the Azure bill? How's the GCP bill? How's the Oracle bill? Oh, the Oracle bill is monstrous, but I don't know how to fix that because I'm not an attorney and I'm not doing database contracts, so never mind. But it was the AWS bill was the expensive problem that I encountered. So I really focused on AWS. Before 4 years ago, I used it, but I wasn't an expert in it. It was just the thing that I had encountered a few times. I really became knowledgeable by working within it a lot. And if I had discovered other things, that the companies I was talking to were deep into Azure, I would have fixed Azure bill instead. And I wouldn't be here. I'd be at the Azure Community Day talking about that story differently. I still point out there's no one who does what I do, either the bill fixing or the newsletter piece for the other cloud providers. I mean, if I were to sit down and build something from scratch and start all over and just purely from a developer experience point of view, I'd probably go GCP. Their developer experience is phenomenal compared to the other providers. I just don't see big companies using them in the same numbers in the market that I'm in. So AWS it is professionally. Please don't mistake the fact that I work on AWS for being a huge fan of everything they do. Falling in love with technology and making it a part of your identity is dangerous. I've done that before. That's how you wind up with people in data centers refusing to accept cloud because they identify themselves with a giant rack full of hard drives because they're the storage admin and that job doesn't really exist in the cloud. Evolve or die.
That's very true. Yo me metí a la nube también sin querer. No sabía qué proveedor empezar. I didn't know which provider to pick because I was a noob and I just want a job, right? Like Carlos is saying, necesito dinero, necesito pagar la renta. No me importa qué proveedor, tú me pagas dinero, me voy contigo, right? So it's like, I'm looking for a job, I'm poor, I don't care which provider it is. If you're going to give me a job, I'm going to pick you. And when I was looking for stuff, at least at the time when I first got into cloud computing in Seattle, obviously there's a lot of AWS everywhere, but also Azure, because I am in Seattle. And I actually started studying for Azure and hoping for Azure-related jobs first because their developer experience was amazing for me, especially as a beginner. They have Microsoft Learn. They have tons of courses. They teach you the beginning of cloud computing, assuming you don't know anything. And AWS, yeah, they're not going to do that. So
I can't teach themselves there.
No kidding. So I really was hoping to go into Azure stuff. But you know what? I couldn't find any roles that were opening up and I wasn't getting opportunities and I still need to pay a job. And then this opportunity with AWS comes up. So of course, suddenly I start studying AWS and I apply and, go on. So I think a lot of the time it's just going to be based on your opportunities. Not everyone has the same opportunities and you just pick the best you can. I don't know.
It depends on the market you're in and what you're looking at too. The first time I saw Docker mentioned in a job description, I laughed at it. The 8th time I saw Docker mentioned in a job interview, okay, it's time for me to start taking this a little bit more seriously. And I did, and I found it ridiculous, and I made fun of it in conference talks. But at least I evaluated it fairly before I did that, kind of.
It happened to me the same, right? I hate Docker. I don't know if I say in other meetings. I don't know if this is the right moment to say it publicly and here in our user group conference. I don't know, but actually I hate Docker. I hate Kubernetes also. But
you're just saying that because it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't know what you think about it. People told me that I'm crazy, that I didn't have any vision to say that, and I don't know what to say. But I think Kubernetes maybe will die soon. And when I say that, people told me, "Oh my God, you didn't have any idea what you were talking about because Kubernetes is like modernization applications, just cloud native. You have to be agnostic." And that's again, we have to marry to AWS because it's we are on a toxic relation maybe with AWS that we have to do it, or maybe we go again agnostic. Being agnostic, I hate to do it agnostic way, but a lot of here companies in Latin America are adopting cloud and they think that they are doing great things, going to hybrid cloud, hybrid multi-cloud. I don't know what they are thinking, but I think hybrid multi-cloud is a waste of time. It's a waste of efforts. I don't know. What do you say?
I'll let you first.
No,
Oh, you're ducking out of that? Okay, then I'll say the quiet part out loud then. Multi-cloud is generally a waste of time. Hybrid cloud is usually a transitional step where we're in data centers because we launched our company 4 years ago, and back then that was the reasonable choice. Now we're going to migrate out of the data center into the cloud, and halfway through, oh crap, turns out that thing's hard to move. So we're just going to give up halfway through. We're going to call it hybrid cloud and pretend that this is what we're trying to do all the time. Most hybrid cloud is either accidental or it's transitional. You either are passing through it or you get stuck in it, but it was never the plan for most folks to wind up in that space. Now, does that mean it's good? No. Does it mean it's something we're going to have to learn to live with? Oh, for at least the next 30 years, if not more than that. To Kubernetes, I think that it's going to go away to the point where we don't have to care about it anymore, but not because no one's using it, but because it's below the level of thing we have to think about when we're deploying and building applications. Like the same way that Building a web server used to take 3 days and an in-depth knowledge of compiler flags. Now it requires a checkbox on an S3 bucket and you're serving a web page. It's really, I think it's simpler over time, not harder.
I don't have... Perdón. Okay,
bueno, no. Go ahead. What do you think about Kubernetes and Docker thing? Do you think they are good? I don't know. I feel that I'm not the only one thinking that way, and I find Corey and they think about the same. So I'm not alone here. But what do you say, Ali?
Odio Docker. Lo odio. I hate it.
This is the best fun ever.
But I usually stay really quiet about it because I don't want people to call me crazy or, oh, you just don't know, you don't understand. That's why you don't like it. I'm like, I can not be good at technology and still hate it. It can be both.
Oh, yeah. And one thing I do want to be very clear on is I'm talking the abstract, the ideal of design a perfect architecture. And here's the part where I make fun of Docker. There are a lot of people who are working with it and who are doing things with Kubernetes for a variety of reasons. I don't want it to come across as I'm crapping on them or their company. There's a business reason why they are where they are, and that's okay. You can't just throw it all away and start fresh in most cases. So don't feel that I'm trying to come after anyone and make them feel bad based upon what technology they happen to be working with. I'm just talking about in the ideal state, Docker has a place and it's in the trash can.
That's the quote of the day. Or
Docker has a place.
From my life, maybe.
Yeah. Yo sí iba a decir que obviamente no tengo tantos años de experiencia como Cory y otros que han estado ya más de 10 años en esta área, pero aún en mi experiencia limitada en esa compañía que te comenté que teníamos Oracle y AWS, using multiple providers was awful. I was in the company for 5 years and I got to see them go through the pain, what did they say? Tears of blood, right? Tears of blood. Because the people that understood the Oracle side did not understand AWS, and our team that handled the stuff that we were migrating from data centers to AWS did not understand how to handle Oracle. And so each team felt pretty confident about migrating from their databases into their cloud provider over time, but they felt very uncomfortable about figuring out how to go and take it from there. Should they stay in Oracle? Should that team migrate over to AWS and only have one? And I was in there for that whole decision-making process, and it was just mess after mess, just so much wasted development hours, so many wasted meeting hours, and so many developers that were overworked just because stupid decisions in that process of moving over.
It's also easy to use containers as a shortcut. In an ideal world, we're going to take this application that runs in your data center. We're going to rewrite it, refactor it to use cloud primitives and become a lot more flexible. But that takes time, effort, and all of which means money. So instead, we're going to shove this thing into a container like an oversized dog into an undersized bathtub with the legs and tails going everywhere and just sort of stuff it into the cloud provider. And now we don't have to worry about the infrastructure. So we just have to worry about what's inside the container and what's outside the container. It basically builds a silo or a wall. And it's not the worst approach. I mean, the worst approach is just not doing that and letting anything rust out from under you and the raccoons carry off your data center into the forest. But it's certainly not the best case.
Okay. I don't know what to say. I think I'm going to lose my job after this.
I told you.
People are going to hate me.
I speak only for myself because, again, I'm at the Duckbill Group. I'm the chief cloud economist here, but I also own the company. So it's very, very hard for me to get fired. Not impossible, but hard. So please blame me. Tell them I put you up to it. It's fine. It'll just keep between you, the three of us and the hundreds of people who are currently watching.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that this clip of this video that we are saying that Docker is crap, Kubernetes is dying. And the last thing that we might say is that we hate Linux also, but that is not happening. So
what are you actually afraid of? The Kubernetes people are going to yell at you? They can't do that. They're way too busy trying to figure out how containers are supposed to discover each other in their environments to get mad and send letters. It's fine.
Corey, when Carlos asked me if I would hop on this call with you, I said, I don't know. That seems like a very dangerous recipe. I mean, for him. I mean, I on Expedia, so, whatever. But, I don't know, Carlos, do you want to have a job tomorrow? I was a little bit worried.
Yeah, I don't care about it. I just want to have fun. I just want to listen different opinions. to different to learn from you, different perspectives. Actually, that's make our profiles different and more successful at the end of the day, because playing the actual same game as everyone's playing, I think that is not worth all the effort that we are doing in this world of making better of cloud, of enhancing our cloud skills here. And it feels it feels much stronger here in Latin America, because in Latin America everything is difficult when we're trying to enhance and keep doing things to be better than our jobs here. So it's difficult for us, but for example, that kind of thing, thinking out of the box, like you, Corey and Ali, talk about, is like we need here. And the reason which I invited you guys are actually that invite everyone to think about the same as you. I don't know, being you, actually not talking like you, but thinking like you.
Oh, don't do that.
No, of course not. Of course not. Not talking about you, because it's very funny. It's very interesting to hear about you, all your knowledge, and but to thinking out of the box is really something that is lack here in Latin America, and I want to change that. I think, and maybe we are thinking a little bit today with this conversation, and maybe a lot of people are questioning about themselves about topics that we talk about here. So that's the main reason that we are here talking about. So I want to thank you, both of you, Corey and Ali, for this great conversation. And oh my God, the sound. Okay, sorry about that. My wife is just doing something in the kitchen. So.
This is a point of community too, to be very honest with you. I remember I'm a consultant. I don't have a large infrastructure I run day to day. The reason I can do the things the way that I do, the best thing is day one, I go into a new environment. I get to leave soon. I know I'm leaving soon, and that's okay. Which means that that gives me time to step back and think about things in the abstract, what the ideal would be, even though you don't ever see something that's ideal in the real world. I think that when you have a job, the community serves that purpose too, where you get to gather at events like this and talk about what it is you're seeing, what you want to be doing, trade perspectives with other people. I mean, again, the saddest part of most conferences is everyone looks at the amazing vaporware on stage that no one's actually built, and they feel bad about what they have in their own environments. Guess what? It's all terrible. The person on stage is probably lying. In many cases, they're talking about either a small test environment or one aspect of their business that the others do nothing like that at all. If you watch a conference talk and come away feeling sad, that's first the terrible talk, and it's possible that you're missing the value you can get from it. Don't feel bad about your own environment, your own situation. Look at what's possible. Again, this stuff isn't built in a day. It's easy as hell to build something on a whiteboard. Building it in the real world takes time and energy, and I have neither of those things.
Of course, I agree. Well, thank you, Corey, again. I think we have to move. We are just on time, and as I said, I'm sitting right here like 8 hours right now. So my eyes, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. So I picked this time exactly because I don't know what I'm doing right now. But I want to thank you guys, Ali and Corey, again. It's a pleasure to have you here. It's been a great conversation. I think it's the beginning of maybe other collaboration that we can made to in this year. So I love you by being here, Corey, and also Alejandra. It's great to have you here. Great conversations and great topics also. Thank you very much. And AWS User Group really loves you. And I'm excited. I'm excited about all things that we talk about here. So thank you very much.
Gracias, Carlos.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Corey. Saludos desde Perú. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Also, can we take a picture?
Yes.
Why not? By all means.
Yes. That's the funny part, right?
Happy with your mouth open. That's the rule.
Of course. Let me. Give me a few seconds.
Wow, Corey looks like he's frozen.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It looks like it's lagging because he's not even moving.
Yeah, I've been Yeah, I've been
There's a
practicing
trick for that. It used to be that to get off a conference call, to hang up when you're the one speaking, because no one would believe you hung up on yourself, so you must have gotten disconnected. With video, you have to freeze your face and do the same thing as you're moving in the background to hang it up, and everyone believes that's what happened too. We just up our game for video. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
¿Listo?
Great. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3. That's all right. Okay. Thank you very much, Corey. Alejandra, AWS just really loves you and very appreciate for what you do today. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.